Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today, in this episode, this will be part two of a mini-series on how to play Dragon Lords of Orith. Uh, so, in this part, we will be picking up from part one, where we had set up the board to play in a two-player game. Before I get into the progression of play through the turns, I will be going over a quick preview of all the pieces that are in the game. So let's get on with it. Okay, so let's start taking a look at the pieces. We will start with a character board. There are 5 different characters that you can play. This will be one of the characters we'll be using in this two-player game. They're pretty much all set up about the same. On the sides, it tells you what the slot in your character is and how many items of that particular slot you can carry. You have your main hand, you have your offhand, which you can either use 2 one-handed items or 1 two-handed item. And then you have your suit of armor, wear 1 at a time. And then on this side, you have trinkets, which you can wear 2. And then potions, which you can carry 4 on you at a time that you can access during the play and the battles. And then, as this is a role-playing type of game where you level characters, you gain feats, which there is unlimited number of feats that you can gain. But you can, out of all those feats, you can only master a total of 3. It's the same for everyone. And then you have the character's name, which is Alexander, his picture, the mana that they start with, and even although some characters are basically a certain type of class, during gameplay, items, feats that you gain for basically going up levels, but it's playing through the turns, you can change a fighter into like a mage or a healer. You can turn a mage or a healer into basically like a battle mage or a battle cleric. And then each character has a different passive ability, which we'll go into that deeper later on as gameplay continues. And then each character has a special ability. And there's usually 2 options for almost every character. And there's also a default option, which again, we'll talk about that later. But special abilities happen when during battle, when you're playing your battle cards to fight the evil dragons. Whenever you have a card that says that its ability allows you to use a special ability, then that will be the special ability that you have on your character board or sheet. And then in this game, you have the option of not only killing the dragons, but also taming them. The first one always starts out as the one you are actually riding, and they all are young. Either the one you start out with or all the ones that you tame later on. You can only tame young dragons. But then you put the markers on your card, and these are actually the small little markers that you use. As you can see, right now they're designed to fit perfectly over that. And then, like the dragon you're riding, basically the young dragons have a movement of 3. So that if you pay this cost And here, to upgrade a young dragon into an adult dragon, you got to pay the gold cost, but the dragon has to be in either a city, a keep, or the capital to be able to have that dragon trained and brought up to a adult dragon. Adult dragon, basically, for the character the dragon that he's riding, that gives him basically just a movement of 4. But the other dragons are dragons that the players tame, and you can send them out in the world to guard your settlements, to hunt down other dragons, and to help both you and your fellow players out, since this is a cooperative game. But adult dragons can only be, you can only train up to adult dragons at certain times in the game. And then the same will hold true for going to a elder dragon, which is the biggest dragon in the game for this version of the game that we're playing, which is just a one-time playthrough. You have 20 turns, or actually 19 turns, to be able to get to your goal of what you need to do. So in this game, don't really mess around with any of the elder dragons, because they don't happen till after that point. But and we'll show this to you on the turn tracker of when you can train the adult dragons up. But that's the character card, or what some people might refer to as a sheet, even though it is actually a bit of a card, about the thickness of a really thick token. Okay. And then just a quick show. This is the other character that we'll be playing here in this sample playtest. This is Delilah. This is the mage out of the characters. Alexander, he is basically the tank out of the group. And then each character has a set of starting cards. This right here being labeled starter, it was only on here for the playtest, and once these cards get reprinted, because I have some fixes to do to them, that starter would disappear from this face and will go to the back side of the card, which you see here. And this here shows you the name of the character that the card goes to, so that if multiple people are fighting in the same battle and you go to clean up your cards, you can easily associate either through the picture or the name on the card of who it goes to. But what these do is that this is your attack, this is your defense. Both the players and the dragons have that. And basically, this is telling you the colored and how many of that color you roll for your attack. And as well here. When you're fighting, you're basically building dice pools. And you add up all your bonuses from feats, the cards that you play, like this. This is your battle, basically your battle deck. And anywhere else from items, or, like I say, feats. There's also bonuses from things out of your control that can help you. But you add up all those dice, and then basically you roll them, and I will go through more specifically how to calculate, the damage done when we go through the play. And then this is here where we're talking about the where things like the special ability come into play. This card here, actually, this ability from this card here, when you play it, gives you no special ability. Okay, there are cards that That one is none. There you go. That says special, which means Alexander can either use his special ability, or the default for every character is that they can either add an additional white die to the attack or to their defense. So there is a default just in case your special ability is rather rare. You know, it's more of like a niche circumstance. So you always have something that you can do. Now, this here, you'll see that the attack and defense have no dice, because this is called the deflect card, which you see right down there at the ability. What this does is you can play this one card on any dragon's attack, whether it be a melee attack or if it be the dragon's breath weapon, and you use this one card to basically nullify that attack. So these are very basic cards because these are the cards you start out with. Everybody has a 10-card deck. Some people have slightly different abilities because of the class that they are. And then, as you level up, you have access to other cards. These are ones you have access to in the very beginning, very much like the starter cards. In fact, there are some duplicates of the starter cards in the tier 1s, but there's also a few other better cards in there, and they start giving you some of the other special abilities, but we'll go through that during gameplay. And then you have the next level up. The tier 2 cards are where the big change in these is where you start seeing you're rolling red dice, either in attack, defense, or both. Which, in this game, the white die are the weakest die. The red die are the next powerful dice. Black dice are the most powerful dice. And then you have blue dice, which kind of sit between red and black, but they're more used for magic spells and magic effects. And then there is, in the single playthrough game, you don't get to tier 3 stuff, whether it be feats, character cards, items. They don't come into the single playthrough. They all come into play in the campaign game where you play for a lot longer. And these cards, what you will see is that you will see the black dice show up, and then the red dice, and then there will be on some cards white dice. But also the abilities start to become more powerful, whereas this deflect is special with Alexander, since he is the tank of the group. When he plays this deflect, he can affect up to 4 attacks on individuals. And basically, so he can play this card on one attack and have all this go against that one attack with the dragon, but then deflect other attacks from the dragon elsewhere. Because if he plays it on this attack, then he's not doing his attack and defense here. It's a mechanic that you'll see in the game. But that's just to show you there's up to tier 3 of cards for almost everything. The items, the player's battle decks, including the dragons, which Elder Dragons play with a Elder Dragon deck. But back to the players. Now, if you remember, we were talking about feats. This is a feat and mastery card. It's basically 1 feat card. These are like the tier 1 cards, the beginning feats that you have access to when you're allowed to choose a feat. And we will go through that process later. But how this works is basically the top part is a feat. If you're using this card as a feat, this is the bonus that you get. Your hand size is increased by 1. Everybody's hand size in the beginning starts out at 5. The more cards you can put in your hand, the more tactical and more options you have during a fight. It doesn't help outright with your survival ability, but it gives you a lot more options to have at your disposal. The bottom size is, this is applied when you master your feat. So you master this card, this feat you don't have access to anymore, and you get this feat effect from that point on. And you can only master 3 cards total, no matter what the tiers are. But they're all, it's a deck of 50 cards. A little bit hard to read there. But all kinds of bonuses. There's 2 copies of each card in here. So technically, there are actually 25 different feats for tier 1. And then, as I said, most cards have a tier. So these are your tier 2 feats, which are a little bit better than the tier 1 feats. But you get them at different times, and you don't get as many of them. Unless you're really going to play the campaign game, then over time you can get access to a lot more. Okay, so let's next go into the turn tracker. You will use this turn tracker no matter which version of the game you play. This is the front side of the turn tracker. This is a little token. We place it on the card to keep track of the turns. And it tells you what turn that you're on. Okay. And here, this is telling you at the end of turn what effect takes place. So right here, all this is you're considered to be a tier 1 character. So anything that has any ability that is based off your tier, this will tell you what tier you are. Everything here is tier 1. And it includes the dragons. Only young dragons can spawn during tier 1. So all the way through turn 7, you're only going to be engaging young dragons. Okay, but like here at turn 2, when turn 2 is finished at the end of turn phase, there's a specific time that you then, starting with the first player, go to the tier 1 feat. A player will draw 3 cards. And out of the 3 cards, they get to choose one of the feats. If they do not like what they have, or they think they or if they're really looking for something more, you can decide to discard those 3 cards to draw 3 new cards. But once you do that, you do not have access to the first 3 that you drew. They go into the discard pile, and you must choose one of the feats from the second time you draw. So if you get a bad draw, it could even be worse, that maybe your character is like Alexander and all you're getting is bonuses to magical abilities, to mana, something that you don't plan on using. Okay? But every turn, you actually get +1 stamina. So this is right here on the very first one. Because not every not every turn are you going to get something other than the 1 stamina. Every turn you will get 1 stamina. And what that means is that on these tier 1 cards, when you gain stamina, each one of these tier 1 cards is equal to 1 stamina. So when you gain a stamina from the turn, you gain one of these cards that you draw from this deck. You put it into your actual battle deck. And then the battle deck is where you're drawing to make your hand to fight and tame the evil dragons. So each tier 1 card is equal to 1 stamina. If you pick up an item that has a +2 stamina and you equip that item, you must spend that stamina immediately. In the very beginning of the game, you don't really have the option of anything other than tier 1 cards. So you would basically be drawing 2 tier 1 cards, each one being 1 stamina, and you would be putting them into your battle deck. Okay. And then later on, once you finish with turn 7, you're going to flip this card over. The only other thing on here is this here where it says additional card. That means you get to play an additional card during combat. When you start the game, you can only play 1 card during each combat round. Okay, so when you get at the end of turn 5, you get to play an additional card, which means you can now play 2 cards per round of combat. You can play them on the same attack, which are combined together. It's considered to be 1 attack, or you can play them separately on different attacks from the dragon if it has different attacks. And therefore you're actually making 2 attacks, but they're both weaker because you're dividing your cards. And as time goes on, you gain more additional cards from your different turns of tier abilities, and then also items can give you the chance to play additional cards. Okay, but when you finish turn 7 and you go to start turn 8, you flip this over, and now you're into tier 2, which means your character now has access, when they go up a level, to start drawing, if they would like, tier 2 cards. And even though they are stronger, the difference is each tier 2 card costs you 2 stamina instead of 1. You can still get tier 1 cards if you would like, but tier 2 are 2 stamina each. Tier 1 is 1. And when you play a campaign game and you're playing with the tier 3 cards, they would be considered to be 3 stamina each. But here with the single playthrough, we're only going to the end of turn 19. Okay? During tier 2, the adult dragons can spawn. Okay? And here, this is where you start to get the access to tier 2 feats. But as you're going up, you're actually still getting access to tier 1 feats. Now, the first time you take like here, when you take the T1 feat the first time, you're just taking it as a feat. Anytime after that, anytime after the first time you take a feat, tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, the next time you have access to a tier 1 feat, or the appropriate tier feat, you have the option of, instead of drawing for a new feat, is you can decide to then master your feat, which then you don't get a new feat. You take one of the ones that you want, and it has to be a tier matching what is available. But if you chose this card as your turn 2 tier 1 feat, turn 4 finishes, and you get access to another tier 1 feat instead of drawing, you can decide to master this feat. The only other limitations, like I explained before, is that no character can have more than 3 mastered feats. Okay? But going back over here, you get access to the tier 2 feats. Like if you'll take this first tier 2 feat here, but when you come down here to the end of turn 12, when you get the next opportunity to take one, you could master the tier 2 feat up here if you have not already mastered 3 feats. Okay? And like I said, you still get tier 1 feats every now and again. So there's still turns that you're not getting any abilities, like extra cards, which you see here where you get your 3rd extra card, or 2nd extra card, which gives you 3 to play. And then this is your 3rd extra card, gives you 4 to play. And then here, the end of turn 17, you get your 4th extra card, which gives you 5 cards to play. You don't have to play all the cards you have available. It just tells you the maximum number of cards you can play. The higher, if you want to think of these as levels, the higher level you go, the more you get to do, the more and better abilities you acquire. But like I said, this also, when you hit tier 2, any abilities you have based off a tier are now usually multiplied by your tier. If you have like 2 uses of a certain ability per tier, okay, tier 1, you would have 2 uses of that ability. Tier 2 would give you 4. And if you played campaign and you went to tier 3, that would give you 6 uses of a ability. Okay? But that's basically the turn tracker. And then we have the turn sequence. This card has not been updated yet. The event phase here needs to be moved up above the revenue phase, because it made a lot more sense to do that, because things that happen in the event phase. But basically, the way the turn sequence will go is that in the event phase, you will draw an event card. And there are 2 types of event cards. There is Blessing of the Gods. This is the current card. This is a manufactured card. Had manufactured from overseas, which is basically where everything is really manufactured. This is called the Blessing of the Gods. Blessing of the Gods is 1/2 of the event cards. Event cards are divided into 2 decks. There's the Blessing of the Gods, and this is an old graphic, which is, I'm currently working on a new upgrade, a different type of design for the cards, which will actually work better in the long run. The other type of event card, which are basically Blessing of the Gods, are drawn on odd number turns, starting with the very first turn. They are, you look at here at 1, okay, basically they give bonuses, the gods are looking favorable toward you in some way. They do all sorts of different types of bonuses. Some are more niche, and some maybe not. Like here, adds one white die to all attack pools for the heroes. Okay. If you're not attacking that turn for whatever reason, it's not going to apply to you. So not all these cards will apply to everyone every single turn. Some of them are much more niche than others. But the Blessing of the Gods, are drawn on turn 1 and then every odd number turn. Then you have the other half of the event deck. And these are called Darkest Hour cards. These are cards that basically give favor to the evil dragons. Okay, this is the new format of the cards. They will be stand up like this. Okay, just go over it real quick. There's 3 different segments on this one here because of the way the game mechanics work. And settlement hexes, not a settlement for the entire thing, but an individual settlement hex, whether it's owned by a player or a neutral settlement hex, for everyone that has been set ablaze during the game, whether the fire's been put out or not, this is how you determine how much of this card you use. Okay? In the beginning of the game, everything's going to be used off of this first section. Okay? Even if none have been burned, it's 0 to 1. And when there are multiple effects on the very first section, which is the only section that will have multiple effects, you do the effects. So here, a green dragon rampage. And I will explain what that means during the gameplay. That's one of the things, one of the worst things that can happen, although there's one that's actually worse than that. And then the other section, which is harder to read here, just because of the way the camera is and the print, basically says all evil dragons, their attack increases by a white die, which means no matter what color the dragon is or what age category it is, whether it's young, adult, elder later on, it's going to gain 1 white die. Now, if there are 2 to 3 settlement hexes that have been burned during gameplay, whether they've been put out or not, okay, the effects now become cumulative. So every time this card is drawn, okay, you do this top one, and then you get this bonus whenever necessary, and then you add this bonus on top of everything else that's happening. So the more the countryside becomes on fire, and settlements, which the populace not like to be burned out of their homes, you get like bad. Think of this as bad luck cards, okay? And then if there are 4 or more, it doesn't matter. Once you hit 4, you get the entire effects on this entire card. The 2 little dragon heads down at the bottom here, they are only in play for the campaign game, because the campaign game will include a powerful evil dragon that will spawn, which needs to be defeated. A single dragon, and this is a mechanic that's still being worked on. That's why it'll be some time before the campaign game will be shown, but there's a number of different effects that can happen. These cards can help make the evil dragons grow, move faster, move towards the capital. Evil dragons want to destroy the land in the countryside, and the players are trying to stop that. Then next, if you are killing a dragon, okay, you get two things. One is you get fame, which is like a form of currency. The populace looks better for you when you either tame or kill a dragon. But if you kill a dragon, besides the fame that you get a treasure card. You only need one card for each dragon that you kill, because you can kill multiple dragons in one fight. One card covers all three different categories of dragons. Okay, they will tell you how much gold you get, because you get gold no matter what. And then it tells you, like, if you get a town item. Okay, some treasure cards do not have any items on them. Like that one there, Young Dragon. It's got 30 gold on it. That's all you get. And then, let's see if we can find something other just to show. And it also tell you what type item too, whether it's a town item, a city item, or even a capital item if you're playing with that. Okay, and then you have treasure cards like this, which if you're fighting an adult dragon and you beat it, you got the gold. You got a city item, which city items get to be much better, but also you get a city spell, which you will randomly choose whether it's arcane spell or divine. And whenever you buy or get a spell as like an item, a treasure, or if you buy it, it comes in the form of a scroll until you memorize it. Then once it's memorized, you cannot trade it or sell it. But that's the treasure deck. That's how simple that works. Then, talking about treasure, these are the town item deck. Right now, these cards have never been professionally printed, so they're actually very thick, almost like some of them are as thick as some very thick tokens, because the graphics have been redone. I've gotten to this point here, which people seem to really like the look of this. Okay. But you have three different tiers. Basically, everything in the game is divided into three tiers. Dragons are in three tiers: young, adult, elder. Characters' abilities, feats, are divided into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Items are the same way. Tier 1 items are town items. If you get this in a treasure, or if you go shopping, let's say you get one item from whatever means. Okay, in this case here, it's a lesser wand of power. Little picture of a wand, and it's classified as a trinket. Goes in the trinket slot. Okay, nothing needs to be known there currently about that. Some items have different information that it needs. And then it has a ability. Like here, when casting a spell, you can have either one or the other effect. If you do not exhaust the card, then every spell you cast will gain one white die to its attack. So if you're casting multiple spells in a round, which as long as you have the mana to do so, every one of those spells will gain one white die for attack if the spell has a attack value to it. Okay, or if you're only casting one spell and you have this, Instead of doing that, you could exhaust the card, or what most people commonly known as tapping. But you would exhaust the card, and you would gain one blue die instead of a white die, boosting its magical ability of the spell, and get that one blue die to your attack instead of the one white die. So one spell, that would be the other option. It also has a special ability on here that whether or not the card is tapped, you get 1+1 to your maximum mana, which that needs to be when they get professionally reprinted. Then that'll change to +1 max mana, so no one gets really confused. And then very down at the bottom is if you're shopping, this is how much this item is going to cost you. If you go to sell it, you'll get half that price. If it's an odd number, then you'll round it up in favor of the player. So if you had something that was worth like 5 gold, you would get 3 gold for it instead of just 2. Okay? But there's actually a very, very large stack of these. But as you can see, there's all kinds of items. Lots of trinkets. There are so many choices. There's at least 2 choices, minimum of 2, usually a lot more, for every not only slot in the game, but when you get into trinkets, which some of these have to be redone because the new version of the card will actually have, like this, actually have wording on there where this is a book. So basically, you cannot have more than one of the specific item in use on your character. It could be in your backpack, but you can only use like one book at a time. Okay, this would be a ring. You can only use one ring at a time. Okay, these are gloves. You can only use one set of gloves at a time. This is a focus. You can only use one type of focus at a time. It's a book. This here is actually a staff, so it's not a trinket. It's actually a weapon. And the staffs in this game are actually one-handed weapons. So you could use a staff in one hand, and technically you could use a staff in a second hand. But you could use a shield in the second hand as well. That's a crown. And then there's a backpack, which we will take this from the item deck. And we'll show the backpack. Every character gets one of these when they start the game. The backpack that they start with can hold 4 items. When you buy something, when you find something, it goes into your backpack. If you have more than 4 items in the backpack, you must immediately choose however many more you have than what you can hold, and basically just drop. You lose the extra items. You can only carry 4. Okay? It takes a action during the action phase to equip what you have in the backpack. That includes memorizing spells, changing weapons around if you're carrying extra stuff in your backpack, or if you're like in the case of the spellcasters, you have spells that are memorized and you have spells that are in your spell book. Okay? You can only carry so many spells in your memory without any augmentation, without any modifiers. Basically, all players can only carry 1 spell in memory. Your book can have as many as you have that you can acquire. but you can only have one per tier plus whatever bonuses you have from items. And then, after town items, we have city items, which basically they are improvement of the town items. Cost more, better special abilities, better abilities. This is a potion, which on town potions, generally, they are throwing white dye for whatever they are doing. Okay, this is a mana potion. So a town level, tier 1 mana potion is going to be white dyes. But towns get more powerful and they start adding blue dice to it. And you have to, potions you have to exhaust when you play them. And at the, they don't untap like regular items untap. Most of the time, they are meant to be a one-use item. You use the potion, and it's gone. But there are abilities in the game. There are feats that allow you, anyone, to untap their own potions so that you can actually try and save potions. Potions are cheaper than items for what they do, but only one use unless you have a way of untapping them. Okay. And there is one character, the witch, who actually has that as a passive ability for each turn that she can untap 2 potions per tier, I believe, is what one of her abilities is, which makes her kind of nice, especially if she has potions. If she's in a group when she's fighting, she can use that in a group and untap other people's potions that they have used. So her ability becomes actually more useful the more potions that are available to her. Okay. And then, okay, I have no graphic for some of the things. Not many of them. Most things do have graphics right now. This one does not. I haven't had my artists make it up yet. Everything costs money. So, but right now, this is just showing you what some of this stuff does. Basically, most of the armor is going to add to defense. Or there's also there's something like a defense. Works a little bit different. It's called passive. And passive happens when there's a dragon's attack that is unanswered by a player. And if they have a passive defense, and all I'll say is PAS for passive, they can roll that passive dice, and they roll it once, and it affects any attack that they do not protect against. It's better to show it in actual play. But back to here, the event phase was actually first drawing the Blessing of the Gods and the Darkest Hour cards. Then you go to revenue phase. You're going to collect your production, which you are collecting gold from whatever you build, plus any bonuses you may have. And then also you will collect some of the things that you build actually give you a currency, which is the fame. Usually, like if you build a monument, okay, your populace is very happy with monuments. And monuments basically boost your people's morales. So you're actually gaining fame each turn that monuments survive. Monuments also boost the tame dragons that are, or boost the defense of the populace when there are no tame dragons to protect it. Or if you're not able to be there and your town is trying to fight off an evil dragon, like events could give them a bonus. Okay. But you have the event phase, then you have the revenue phase, then you go into the action phase. Okay. The action phase, what happens here is that all players at the same time take 3 actions. And I do not think this might be upgraded, but these are the type of actions you can take. Okay? Each single action is one of these 3 things here. You can only tax your people here once per turn. But if you tax here, unlike the revenue phase, taxing, you're only getting money. You're taking more money away from your people, who generally, as we all know, none of us like to be taxed. So you are not going to get the fame because the people are a little bit unhappy with you. Okay, but you can do that once per turn. There are blessings in the event phase that do allow you to do it a second time, but they may or may not come up. But you can move, so you could take like 3 move actions if you wanted, or 2, or any combination of these that you want to. Because sometimes you do have to do things in a certain order. You can't spend money going to a market action to buy items if you don't have money and you didn't tax yet. So most people like to tax if they're going to do any kind of a market action or an upgrade or a build action to build up their towns, their cities, their keeps, building up the capital. All that takes an action for each one you do. Okay, there's the resting, which allows you to basically heal back cards that you have lost to getting wounded in battle, which we'll go into that more deeply in the fight phase. There's channeling, which allows you, without using any cards or anything, to just channel. And you can channel anywhere. You don't necessarily have to be in a settlement to do that, but you're only going to be rolling 1 white die unless you have like bonuses to channeling. And you can also cast spells. You can cast with 1 cast spell action. You can cast any number of spells as long as you have the mana to do so. When you run out of mana, you can't cast any more spells. Plain and simple. Okay, equip, which I already mentioned that once, but I'll mention it again. That's where anything in your backpack you can equip. Okay. Also, you are allowed to use items here. So if you have like a potion and you don't want to rest because maybe you have items that you want to equip, but you also have a potion, you could use the potion. Okay, and also switching if you have stuff that maybe you have backup items used for different purposes, and you want to switch them out, this is the opportunity to do so. And like I said, equip that you have anything, and also switching out is switching spells in that's between your memory and your spell book. If a spell comes out of memory with the card, you simply move it over to where you keep your spells that are not memorized. And we'll show you why that's kind of important when we get to casting spells. But that's the general idea of the actions. You can do 3 of any combination, although doing 3 of casting a spell is kind of useless because you only need 1 to cast any number of spells. You only need 1 equip action to equip, or use items. And you do that all together. They're not separate. Market is separated. That's because when you go to a market, generally you're not going. The guy who's going to sell you armor is going to sell. You're going to find people right around him that are selling the same type of items. But if you're going to look for someone to buy spells from, you're not going to the same market as you would like to buy, weapons and armor. So you need to take a separate market action to like buy the items compared to buying spells. You also need to take separate market actions if for some reason you can use both arcane and divine spells, because that's how spells are divided between arcane and divine. But we'll move on to the next phase, which is the dragon phase. And you draw from the dragon deck, which has been modified. This is just modification that's come just recently. This is a new graphic for this face of the card. And this basically is the AI for the dragons. Tells the dragons what they all do. That's the evil dragons, not your dragons, but the evil dragons tells all of them what to do. I'm not sure how I came up with this whole system, but this works really good for 2 or 3 different purposes. And then you draw the card, and in this phase, you're only drawing 1 card. Okay, what you're looking for is you start with the primary dragon. That means blue dragons. Okay, all dragons, if they're young, they get 1 free movement forward before anything over here. Okay. Unless the dragon has done a rampage this turn, either in the Darkest Hour deck or here. If this dragon was to do a rampage, he wouldn't get his 1 free move forward. Rampage is a whole different set of rules. This is normal movement for blue dragons. So they get the 1 free. They would get 1 free forward movement. Then, since they are the primary dragon, okay, all blue dragons are going to get 2 more forward movements. Okay, then you go, and if there is a swarm on the board, which this is what a swarm looks like. This is the red dragon swarm, or at least the current token for it. But you see the arrow shows you what direction the swarm generally will move in for direction-wise. A swarm affects all hexes underneath it. So it's a lot more deadly, along with the mechanics, the fight mechanics. Swarm is made up in the beginning of multiple dragons. The swarm can grow, and the swarm is there until you kill the last of the dragons. And to put it a little bit in perspective on the board, you see how it not only takes up the 1 center hex that it's on, but it's incorporating all these other hexes around here as well. So if this was built out by a player and nobody was defending against this swarm or no dragon, when this swarm attacks, every dragon in the swarm gets a chance to destroy the hex that it's centered on and any improvement around in its field of destruction, which is pretty devastating. And that is, in this version of the game, this is technically the greatest threat that can come on the board. But swarms, like if there was a blue dragon swarm on the board right now, the order of movement would go primary dragon would go first, which would be blue, which means the blue swarm would move first. And then after the swarm moves, all other single blue dragons move according to this. And the movement is true for the swarm as well. The only difference is with a swarm, the swarm can only move as fast as its slowest dragon. So as long as there is a young dragon in the swarm will only move one hex first before doing this. If there are, let's say there are 3 adult dragons in the swarm, adult dragons get 2 moves straightforward first. Elders get 3. Then they follow up with this. And then after you finish with the primary, then you move to the secondary color. White dragons, they get the 1, in the case of a young, they get the 1 free move forward. Then, because it's secondary, they're a little bit slower than the blue dragons this turn, according to this card. So they're only going to move 1 additional hex forward. Okay? If there was a white dragon swarm on the board, that would move first before any other white dragons. Also, anytime the same colored dragon comes in contact, no matter what the cause or effect of their movement, if they come in contact with a swarm of the same color, they will join the swarm. And then their movement would stop and they would be one with the swarm. Okay? Now, if they are a different color than the swarm, then instead of going into the swarm, they are basically going to do a 180-degree turn and they're going to run away from the swarm. Different colored dragons will not go into the swarm of another dragon. In order to go into the swarm, they have to be of the same color. But if we go through these real quick, just to show an example of what can happen. And here, we have one of the cards people hate to see, because there are actually 2 big effects. Okay? And the primary, the white dragons, have a rampage. What is rampage? Rampage means that the white dragons basically go into a berserk stage. Their primary objective is all that they want to do. So what they will do is it doesn't matter what way they are facing, starting out, they will move. Let's say the red dragon here. Let's say this was a red dragon rampage. Okay? Since it's a young dragon, young dragons have a base move of 3, unless they have bonuses from somewhere. Okay? If it's a rampage, what it is going to do, it's going to move 3 hexes in the shortest route to the capital. 1, 2, 3. And that's where it will end its turn. It did not land on anything, so it's not going to fight anything. Okay? If for some reason its rampage ended up landing on the capital, let's just say, for example's sake, okay, that dragon will then attack in the fight phase that capital. And it will initiate a fight. Normal movement, if on normal movement, let's say it ended on the capital, it will not fight. Okay? Because it has exhausted itself getting there. If this dragon still had movement left under normal movement, then it would fight. But on a rampage, it just needs to end its movement on it. Now, let's say the movement would bring it there. But let's say this player is here. Right? Yes. Okay. The one special rule about rampage is that when a dragon ends its turn, actually, that will be a bad example. Here, let's say the dragon started here. Let's say a player was there. If it started here, okay, under normal move rules, the normal moves, okay, the players get, whenever there's a decision of which way to turn, players get to choose. But during a rampage, the rules change because the dragon wants to just destroy things. Okay? The dragon has a special rule that if it started here and you had a red dragon rampage, okay, you would think that 1, 2, 3, but on a rampage, the dragon wants to try and destroy things. Cannot get to the capital. But with the same movement, it could have ended with this player. So here, that's what it would do. Okay? If the player was not here, the players would have a choice of which hex to end in. Technically, does not make any difference if there's nothing there. On a rampage, a dragon is always going to end on a hex that is most favorable to the evil dragon for trying to destroy things. If there was an improvement on this hex, let's say there was a church here, the dragon would end up on the church. And when it ends its movement on a rampage, it automatically points towards the capital hex if it is not on the capital hex. So that's just one of the unique rules of dragons on a rampage. I forget where that was. I think it was there. But that's basically how rampage works. Okay? And there we go. Okay, now if you had a white dragon swarm on the board, it would do and react in the same way. Okay? And you would do that primary first. Then you would go to the secondary, which is a green dragon growth. Dragons cannot, young adults cannot grow into adults during the tier 1 phase of the game. So therefore, up through turn 7, or at least the end of turn 7, you don't have to worry about growth in that way, that you're having to fight adult dragons, which are much tougher. Okay, but if a dragon cannot grow when it gets a growth card, okay, whether or not, like if there's no green dragons on the board, you're going to, instead of growing one, you're going to spawn one. Okay. And if there are young dragons on the board anyway, because you cannot grow one to adult, you're going to spawn another young dragon. So generally, unless all of the evil dragons are on the board or in use in one way or the other, you're almost always going to have a dragon either grow or spawn with the growth. And this is just that color. Now, after you do the primary and secondary, that fulfills this card's first stage of this process. After that, any colors that are not listed on here, okay, every other dragon moves 1 hex forward. If it's young. If it's adult, it moves 2 hexes forward. It gets its base movement. Okay? The green dragon growths right now, they do not move. That might change, but right now they do not move. Okay? They don't have a move chart here, and right now we don't apply the bonus to the green dragons. Okay? And Rampage, you don't apply movement modifiers to the colored dragons that are going on a rampage. There is, in the Darkest Hour deck, one card only, that all it says is Rampage. Probably the worst card in the game. When that happens, that means all colored dragons go on a rampage at the same time. That's when all hell breaks loose. But there's only one card in there in like a 35 card deck. Just like there's also a growth card that does the same thing. All it says is growth, which means it's trying to grow all the dragons on the board. So the two worst cards in the game, those Darkest Hour cards, is only one card of each. Rampage is the worst. So, but that just gives you an idea about the whole Dragon AI deck. And then the other purpose of the deck is whenever a dragon spawns, you draw one of these cards. If only one dragon spawns, you would draw this card. Then you refer to the primary, and you don't worry about the secondary at all. You don't worry about that. One dragon, you would spawn a white dragon. You don't worry about rampage when you're spawning. And then you look at this. Mountain 1, direction 2, or direction 6. So it's going to tell you where to spawn it, what spawn mountain, okay? And then it'll tell you what direction it points in. And direction can be a lot more significant than you might think in the beginning. If you spawn 2 dragons out of a single effect, then you're drawing the one card, you're spawning the primary, then you are spawning the secondary, and you're doing the same thing. Green dragon spawns on mountain 3, direction 1. Okay, these cards work really, really well for the Dragon AI. Took quite a number of changes to get to this point. In the very beginning, the dragons were lucky to circle around the spawn mountains. They never even came close to the capital. Now, they will come close to the capital. And there's tweaking done on not this deck, but especially on the Darkest Hour deck, and also some minor rules changes that will probably help with that a little bit more, because that's still a little bit lackluster. But then, I'm going to move this. I'm going to go to our dice next. This is one full set of dice. Is what's going to come in the game. You can get additional dice sets. If the game goes to Kickstarter, then the different pledge amounts will add additional dice sets. We found it a lot more useful to have a dice set per person, although it's not necessary. But the dice set is very specific because of the way the dice work. In the single playthrough, the max number of dice we don't really have not hit. We've actually come close to white dice, and I will explain it real quick in the beginning. Is basically all this dice is the maximum amount of dice you can ever throw in one action. Like one fight, one swing, one casting of spell. That is your maximum dice. If your dice pool calls for more dice than that, you lose the excess dice. And I know that looks like a lot, but we've tested this game actually quite a few times now. And I think the closest we came is on white dice. And out of the 15 white dice, the most someone's ever thrown, I believe, is 13 white dice. And believe it or not, most of the results are not great because of how swingy those white dice can be. There's pretty much a 33% chance of getting a blank on each die. Because there are, as you can see right there, there's 2 blank sides. Another two sides have a single green die, and then two green die in that, and then one gold star and one green dot on that side, which is the best side of a white die, but it's only one side. So it's only a 33% chance of a blank on those dice. Red dice only have one white side, one blank side, and blue dice have no blanks, but are not as good as the black die, and usually it's magical effects that allow you to use the blue die. Okay, so basically, when you're gathering your dice pool, let's say all your effects give you 4 white die, maybe give you, let's say, 1 red die, then that's what you're rolling. You roll it out, and then you're going to be counting up what you have. Okay, blank dice, yeah, we all know. That's like a sad day. Okay, then what you have, we have the green dots are light hits. They do 1 damage. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 green dots. So that's basically 5 hits right there on the green dots. Now let's say the dragon, let's say that's your attack. And now let's say the dragon rolls his defense, and let's just say it's the same dice. You roll that, and you're going to compare attacks with defense. So basically, right away, these dice are going to cancel out. And then, okay, we have the dragon is going to cancel out these two green die, which is going to leave one green die, and then the gold star is a heavy hit. And what a heavy hit is, it is 1 damage plus a crit damage. Now, when damage is all said and done, and you're done calculating, a crit damage will be the same as a regular damage. Each one is going to make you discard one of your cards from your battle deck. If you run out of cards in your battle deck, you get to choose what cards you want to discard out of your hand. When you have no cards left between the discard and your hand, you become exhausted. You don't die, but you basically lose the battle right there. Well, technically, you can still win if you defeat the dragon. We've had that a number of times, but you're not going to gain any treasure if you're trying to kill it, but you will gain fame no matter what. Okay, so this here, remembering that the two light hits, the 2 damage, has already been taken care of. Okay, so the player has done 2 crits right there and 2 hits. Okay, so this is a crit and a hit. Okay, which would be this one here. And the greens up here have already been taken care of. So now what is left is 1 hit from here. And then that's still a crit and a hit from the player. Which means the hit will cancel the rest of this die out. The player has done 1 crit to the dragon. So in order to either win a fight or to tame it, which you're rolling the same dice, it's just a different outcome. As long as you are doing more damage to the dragon than it is doing to you, you win the battle. So if you were fighting it, then you would get the treasure, the fame. If you were taming it, you would get the fame, and then you remove the dragon's token from the board, and you would replace it with one of your dragon tokens, which one is generally the dragon you're riding on. So you would, like, if you're fighting the red dragon there, just for say, you would place that there, and then that would be your dragon there. Then you would come up here and you would place your little dragon token on there. This would be the one you're riding. So now you got the one you're riding, and you're going to have the dragon you just tamed. Okay? Of course, if you fought it, this wouldn't be there. Okay? And this would not be there. Okay? But, and then whether if you defeat a dragon, what that does is at the end of all the fighting, however many fights you have to do, whether it's player versus evil dragon or evil dragon, excuse me, evil dragon versus a settlement, or an evil dragon versus a tame dragon, you will then spawn one or more dragons from each one of those engagements. But it has to be the evil dragon that died or was tamed for the spawning to take place. If a tamed dragon dies, okay, you do not spawn another evil dragon. Only when evil dragons are basically removed from the board. Except in the case of a swarm, the entire swarm has to be removed from the board, and then you're only spawning one dragon from a swarm. Everything spawns one dragon, except if a player fights a dragon, doesn't matter the age category. If a player fights a dragon, it will spawn two dragons. So if you had a player fighting and killing one dragon, and then you had two other dragons that were killed by other means, then what you would be spawning is the first spawn would be two dragons. Okay, so you would flip over one card, and you would spawn, like here, you would spawn the red and the green. And then the next two, you would flip over a card for each of them. And since only one dragon was spawned here, you would spawn a blue dragon. And then the next card for the third one, you would spawn another blue dragon, and you spawn them to their appropriate spots on the cards for mountain and direction. And that's just a quick overview of how the fighting, as quick as I can really go over it, works. Okay? The other thing, back to the action phase real quickly, during the when you're doing different actions in your building, these are basically the pieces that you can build. Okay? These are settlement hexes. Okay? And everything together, like if you build two town hexes adjoining each other, okay, that is one settlement. Now let's say you want to build a farm, which farms cannot be built on mountains, but if you build a farm, that farm now is considered to be part of that settlement. It's not a settlement hex. If you're talking settlement hex, you're talking a individual actual settlement hex, which is either a town, a city, or a keep. Okay, so you have three different types of settlement hexes that you can build. The keep gives you better protection, allows a settlement to kill a dragon it's fighting. If a settlement does not have a keep, or it's right down here, a mage tower, if it does not have either of those two, the best cities and towns can do is basically, even if they win, they're not killing the dragon. Cities and towns cannot kill dragons. You need either the keep or a mage tower. Okay? And fighting between settlements and the evil dragons are done actually a little bit more quicker and simple than regular fighting. Basically, if, let's say, a young dragon is attacking, and he's either attacking a tame dragon or a city, keep, whatever settlement, okay, a young dragon is going to roll one white die. That's it. So young dragons can blank out. Like I said, 33% of the time. Towns, they also roll a white die. Okay. Cities roll a red die. Okay. Now the capital gets to roll a blue die. Okay. And a capital and anything built to join the capital, okay, will have the ability to kill dragons. That's the only other hex that can assist in killing a dragon. You have access to more things within the capital. Okay? But then you have the keep. The keep, besides being able to kill the dragon, has the best defensive die for a settlement. Okay? A keep can be built by itself. Okay? You could actually you would have to build a town first, and then you would upgrade that to a keep. Okay, while it is a town, you have a white defensive die. You change that, and when you upgrade it, you have your choice, depending on if you can afford it or not, of doing either the city or the keep. Keep's more expensive, but it's much better production, and it can kill dragons. Okay, the city would give you a red die. The keep, a black die, and the ability to kill dragons without having a mage tower. The only other bonus is a monument. Monuments inspire your people. That's why people are happy to see, beautiful monuments in their cities, a pride, which means they also fight better, which in this case, the way that's represented is that it is rolling to your dice pool, which is only one base die, depending on where the dragon is at. We'll say that a dragon is on the keep. If you have a monument built there, a monument adds a white die to your roll. So it's going to make your roll stronger. Even though the black die is already strong, the white die can be very helpful. Or it can just do like nothing. But you also have the opportunity, if you wish, there are risks involved with this, of building additional monuments. Now, this is not going to be all cumulative. Okay? You roll your black die, and then you roll your 3 white die. Okay? Then what you do out of all the dice that are rolled from monuments, if you have multiple monuments, you choose basically the best die. You're not going to choose the weakest. I don't think any of us are quite that, brainless. You're going to choose the best die. So rolling more die gives you a better chance of getting something more. Okay, and a keep's already strong, so most people don't really add the monuments. If they do, they only add 1. Also, the blessing cards, they do have the possibility of giving bonuses to your settlements. Okay, let's hold this down here. But like I said, back to the build phase, because this video is getting a little bit longer. Apologize. These are all the stuff you can buy. There are different costs associated with them. They also, the more they cost, generally, the better their outcomes are. They give you bonuses. If you're building a large metropolitan area where you have a lot of town hexes, a couple of city hexes, maybe even the keep hex thrown all in there, you just want to throw everything into one place, then basically it's going to look like a large city. You know, you got your nice city section, and then you have your kind of almost like your slums on the throughout your city, and then you have the big beautiful keep. But then these are what we call improvements, which give bonuses in different ways. These 10 tokens right here are double-sided. There is a farm on one side and hard to see this. I don't like this graphic. It's got to change. And then a mine on the other. Farm is going to produce you more money. I mean, a farm is going to produce you less money. The mine's going to produce you more. The thing is, you have 10 tokens here they can use. So if you build 10 farms, you're not going to be able to build any mines. If you build 10 mines, you're not going to build any farms. There are feats that affect the production values of both. So if you get the right feat cards early on, it's worthwhile to actually build like either farms or mines. Or if you just have the extra gold, certain turns, and you're like, what am I going to spend, 10 gold pieces on? Oh, I'll build a farm, and it gives me income, okay? Because after the second turn, you're going to get your money back, okay? And then you have churches and mage towers, basically the same way. Double-sided, so you can only build 5 of any combination of the 2. Okay. And then churches are good for healing, basically. Mage towers are good for basically like both channeling, and then of course if you want to buy arcane spells, mage towers help you get additional cards when you go shopping. The churches help get you additional cards for shopping for divine spells. So they give you bonuses there. And also the mage tower has the ability to give your settlement the kill tag. That's easy enough to put it for the evil dragons. Then you have marketplaces. Okay. And basically what the marketplaces will do, and they are just single-sided. They used to be called trade centers, but we call them marketplaces now. There's only 5 of them. Okay. And for each marketplace, you get 1 additional item or spell when you take a market action. And for each market action. And that's basically what they do. Okay. And then there's the monuments, which basically they help you generate fame without doing anything once they're built. Every turn, they're giving you a couple of fame because your people are just always happy to have something like that until it gets destroyed. And then they also, since they make your people really happy, your people fight better, So defending their settlement, they do a little bit better. That's the bonus white die. And then there is the diplomat. Okay. There's only 3 of these, single-sided. 3 of these available to each player. Usually in the single playthrough, you're only going to really build 1. Okay. In the campaign game, you'll have the opportunity to build more if you wish to. And the special thing about the diplomats, as far as their abilities go, is that wherever a diplomat is, if he's in a certain town or if he's in the capital, for you, your diplomat can duplicate any ability, any single ability that a improvement in that same settlement gives you. So, like, if you got an improvement with just a farm and the diplomat was there, okay, and you took the tax action, okay, you can choose for that turn for the diplomat's ability to be mimic the farm's ability and get an extra 5 gold out of the farm. Diplomats are very influential people. And that's basically what all this is signifying. He can, if the town has a monument, he would give you an additional white die if you wanted to mimic his ability. And you could mimic the monument's ability even just to gain the fame that is generated. Any of the other ones that allow you to get additional cards while marketing, you have him mimic that action, and he helps get more items revealed to you. The diplomat will not do anything with the mage tower as far as killing, because you either have the kill tag or you don't have the kill tag in a settlement. Okay. And I believe, other than items, I'll go through one more set of items, and that will be when shopping. That is so we got 2 types of spells here. We got one that's arcane. We got one that's divine. I'm old, my hands are shaky. And then, of course, divine spells, they tell you arcane and divine at the bottom, but then also if you look at basically the circles on this side, green divine, blue arcane. Okay, it shows you that this is a spell from a town. Okay, and also in the center is the symbol of the town hex. If we go to a city, just show you real quick. There's the city arcane. In the center, symbol of the city. Okay. And then, when you turn it over to see what you have found, okay, you have, the name up at the top of the spell. Okay, no graphic for it yet. They're usually graphics like that are usually the most expensive to produce. Single item images are fairly cheap, but anyway, it'll show the cost of the mana. There's 2 numbers. The first number is the cost to cast the spell if it's in memory. Okay? If it's from your spell book, because you can cast spells from your spell book, it will cost more. Okay? It also tells you a range. Right now, we're working on the ranged combat, so that's still a process. Basically, right now, generally everything is melee except for the concentrated playtest that we're doing. And then it tells you the ability of the spell, which here you're healing 2 white die, plus any bonuses. And then the special here means that if you are in a group fighting a dragon, you can distribute that healing to any number of heroes in your group, however you want to. And then, of course, the cost of the spell. And if you look here, this the little green dots in the corners, the little gemstones. Again, green, divine. Blue, arcane. Arcane, same way. You got the name up at the top. And then the mana, the range, the ability. This happens to be able to deflect 1 breath weapon. And then, of course, special. It's saying that you can only use this on yourself. Some spells you can. Some spells you have options. And then the cost of the spell, if you're buying it. And that should... I am not going to start the little playthrough for this here because of how long this video is. God knows this video's almost 2 hours long. I wasn't expecting that. Sorry. One more quick little thing that I have not gone over yet. Okay. And this is the dragons. All set up. As you can see, by color, the swarms. And since this is set up as a 2-player game, the way you set up the swarms is that on the swarm, you put a number of young dragons equal to the number of players plus 1. So a 2-player game, there's 3 young dragons on here. In every game, all dragon colors have 4 young, and then a number of adults equal to these 4 here, plus however many are on the swarm. Okay, and you can see the size difference in the tokens. Enough that people don't seem to have a problem with them, because mostly right now, because it's only single playthroughs, we're only really using the young and the adults, because we don't get to that tier 3 stage. We will when we start testing the campaign side of the game. Okay? But, and then at the top there, those are the elder dragons that they have not worked with yet. That's how many dragons, of course, with the ones that look like they're missing. If you remember, and you've seen the last video, some of the dragons already spawned on the board. But there's basically, you start out with 4, 4, 4, 4, 4 on the side of the board. And then 2 plus the number of players. 1 plus the number of players. Okay. And then the number of adults equal to the number to the 4 here plus what's on the swarm. So in this case, it is 7 adults. Okay. And whenever a growth card happens, and this only applies to swarms that are off of the board. Let's say a red growth was to happen on turn 8. Okay. When you can spawn adult dragons. So whether or not there are any adult dragons on the board, the swarms are affected. What will happen is one of these young dragons will come off and a adult dragon will grow in its place. So even off the board, the swarms don't necessarily get bigger as far as a number unless the tokens start to run out. Okay, if at some point, let's just say that this swarm was to become 3 adults and it was to grow, it would then grow additional young. It would be that simple. And then if it was to grow again, the young would become an adult. Grow again, a young comes aboard. And that can happen off the board while the game is being played. And that's basically all the dragons that would be used in the game. So you're only gonna spawn a maximum amount of dragons. Although if you spawn everything, that's pretty amazing. We definitely have not seen it yet. We've seen a lot of dragons on some playtests on the board. We've seen a lot of adults on the board. The most we've seen so far is 2 swarms at one time, I believe, on the board. And that was pretty bad situation, but so far we've only had one game that was a fail. Most of the games right now, even though they are winning, and most of the games right now are basically 2-player testing games, they find that the games are challenging, although I think the challenge needs to be upped a little bit, and I think the change in the Darkest Hour cards and some of the mechanics with that will take care of that. So like I say, I apologize for how long this video has taken. There's a lot of pieces, and there's no rule book for the game right now. Everything's on reference cards. So the next part of this will be the actual first turn. And as I'm going through the turn, I will try to explain maybe a little bit more of some things that I might not have explained so much in. It's a lot. It's a big game. There's no doubt about that. I'm not at all claiming that this is a small game. We do know right now that a 2-player game is lasting between 2 and 3 hours long. And the way you determine whether or not you win or lose, because that's basically all it is that if you do not achieve your goals by the end of turn 19, you lose the game no matter what. That's one condition of losing. The other condition of instantly losing is if all capital hexes are destroyed. Because once you destroy all capital hexes, any improvements that are there are going to automatically go away. But the way you win, and like I said, their win rate is very high. 2-player game is basically 100% right now. And I know that sounds kind of funky and might be like, wow, that game's too easy if they're winning 100%. The thing is, there are a lot of games now that the game has been coming down to one single dice roll. There's been a number of times where on turn, I don't remember if it's as early as turn 2, but I know on turn 3, it's been a point where dragons have been getting to the capital, and they get to make, for whatever circumstances, they get to make an attack roll on the capital. And it came down to that one roll because there was nothing else built on the Capitol early on, because it's way too early to build something, that if they had failed their defense roll for the Capitol, a young dragon would have ended the game for them. So even though the win rate right now is rather high, and I would like to get that down a little bit to up the challenge rating of the game a bit, I'm still happy with the way everything works. And you'll see that in the play tests I do on here myself will be more in depth. Whereas when you start to see the videos later on that are definitely 2 or 3 hours long, if it's only a 2-player game, it'll be hard to show everything that's going on, every dice roll. But when I'm doing myself, because you can play this with one person, I have not tried a single hero in the game yet. I would probably recommend, if it's one player, to play 2 heroes. To play more actually can get tiring. Because I've had a playtest where one player was playtesting the game, but he was using 2 heroes. And even though he was able to do it, he said he was exhausted doing 2. But if you're going to do this as a single player game, I would still suggest doing 2 heroes. And, if you do it, leave the board set up, do it in 2 sessions, unless you're good to go by yourself, and maybe you have a longer period of time to do it in, that's fine. But yeah, that's really the majority of the cards. The only cards I don't have in front of me right now are the Young Dragon deck and the Adult Dragon deck, which you'll see them the next time when I start doing the playthrough here at home. I thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.